Carterton for It's in the Ballot. We welcome our audience here in Carterton and also all of you around the country who have come online to enjoy this show. I'd like to first welcome our other hosts, and one of them is Diane.
Good evening, everybody. Good to be here.
And Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for inviting us over.
So it's because of Sam that we're here tonight. We're actually doing a pilot show. And of course, pilots are where mistakes happen. So please forgive us if anything does happen. But I'm sure we will learn many lessons tonight. So we've got 8 prospective or candidates who hopefully will get onto our councils throughout the Wairarapa, Masterton, Carterton and South Wairarapa. So I'm now going to introduce them and they will introduce themselves to you. We're going to start with Ron Mark from Carterton. Thanks, Ron.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Ron Mark, clearly. Look, in 1954 when I was born, my parents, when I was born in Masterton, my parents were living here in Carterton on Brooklyn Road. I'm of Ngāti Kahungunu and Rangatani descent, plus Ngāti Porou, and there's a long list of that and other iwi as well. My apologies to them all for not mentioning. I started my career as an apprentice motor mechanic, and I served in the New Zealand Army for about 15 years, followed by 5 years service with the Sultan of Oman's Defence Force, retiring as a major, having commanded a unit in the Special Forces. I served 4 terms as a Member of Parliament and was elected Mayor of Carterton in 2010 and 2013. I was re-elected as an MP in 2014. I returned to Parliament in 2017 as a Cabinet Minister, holding Minister of Defence and Minister of Veterans Affairs. Look, I am standing because I know what Carterton has been and what it can be, and I mean to offer my leadership skills to the people of Carterton.
My name's Steve Gallen. I was born in Carterton, 1955. Still here. I've got a bit of investment in Carterton. I've got a few ideas. I'd like to be able to give back to the community a bit. There's a lot of things that I've got knowledge of that I feel I could pass it on to people to help the community in some way. I've just got a lot I'd like to better give back to the community. Just want to be there to help and pass on things. Thank you.
Kia ora and g'day everybody. My name is Ben Dugdale and I'm standing for one of the vacancies in Carterton District Council. I've returned here in 2018 with my darling wife after a period away. I believe this position requires somebody who is responsible, reasonable and reliable in order to carry out the functions of Carterton District Council. I believe I have those. I'm a small business owner and I have the time available to dedicate to this particular role. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Mary Byrne. I'm standing for the Featherston Community Board. I've lived in Featherston for the last 10 years and I feel passionate about making Featherston a better place to live, not just a place to sleep. And I'm particularly interested in environmental issues, I suppose, around the water and things like glyphosate. Thank you.
Kia ora. Ko Joanne Hayes tuku ingoa. My name is Joanne Hayes and I am standing for the mayoralty of Masterton. I believe that Masterton needs somebody who is passionate and who can deliver to Masterton all the great things that a little coastal town like Masterton and every group that belongs to it can actually deliver. That person is me. I want to be the Mayor of Masterton. I want to be able to share the experiences that I have as a former MP for the National Party. I have experience in local government. I have actually worked for the Palmerston North City Council, so I've come with that experience as well. And I have governance and business management experience. Being of Ngāti Kahungunu Rangitane descent, I come with a very strong iwi support base, and I want to be able to share that across. I think iwi partnerships is a way for the future for councils, and I think that it has not been looked at within the depth that it should be. Kia ora.
Hi, I'm Roger Bolter. I'm standing for election as a councillor for Carterton District Council. I did stand 3 years ago, but a lot has changed in 3 years. For one thing, the word three is very often followed by the word waters when you're talking about local government. And we've got some big challenges ahead. One is the Three Waters reform. It may not go through because there are plenty of voices against it. But if it does, that raises questions, what are local councils for? Because their operation will be a lot smaller. There's also of local government going on. And I think I'm a good person to bring good value to the Carterton people through this time, because my whole career, I've worked for local councils. I've both in-house and as a transport planning consultant more recently. So I've known the system from the inside, and I can help you.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Daphne Geisler, and I'm standing as Mayor for South Wairarapa. So you may be saying, what's an incumbent doing standing for Mayor? And what does she know? So last triennium, I stood as councillor for the Martinborough Ward, and I was not successful. But since then, I've been attending all the council meetings, reading the papers, making comments and keeping up to date. So I really feel that I can hit the road running, and I'm ready for the major challenges ahead. When I first started looking at local government, I asked, what's the point? And it wasn't until I read the actual intention of local government to enable democratic local decision-making that I thought, yep, that's for me. We need a lot more involvement with the community, and we need to make joint decisions on things and have the community involved in our decision-making. Thank you.
Kia ora, ko Claire Bleakley toko ingoa. I am standing for the Featherston Ward as a councillor. I've been on the community board for the last 6 years, and I have been very frustrated with the fact that the council has not listened to Featherston and its issues. We have flooding issues, we have sewage issues, and our moana, Wairarapa moana, is being badly affected. In this stage, over the last few years, we have seen a split of our community. We have also seen a terrible, I've forgotten what to say. It is in the back. I have seen the communities split, the effectiveness and the continuity and the disassociation and discrimination of people who have made choice. And I want to bring our community together. I also want to address the issues of Featherston. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. And I, of course, got to introduce myself when I introduced this show. My name is Jill Greathead. I'm an existing Carterton District Councillor. One of the things about all of these people is that they are new candidates for the positions in which they are standing for. Out of probably about 60 odd in the whole of the Wairarapa. So that's how we chose them. Now, I believe we're now having a short technical break.
However, with any comes with any election, there's one thing standing in the way, and that's your vote. Let's kick off. It's in the ballot. That's so that those at home can sit there and hear it. So one of the things we get to do with all what's in the ballot shows, we have to find out what our voting constituency bases are based on. So if Ray, you can sit down there and put the electric video, and we can give a bit of an eye-opener of our three Wairarapa councils.
The Wairarapa, which means glistening water in Te Reo, with the southern boundary being the Rimataka Ranges in the south, the Taurua Ranges to the west, and the town of Eketona, Mount Bruce, and Alfreton in the north. Wairarapa has 3 district councils: Masterton, Carterton, and South Wairarapa, consists of their unique features. Masterton and Carterton have districts at large to elect their councillors, whereas South Wairarapa has 3 wards based on their 3 towns: Greytown, Featherston, and Matarua, plus each ward has their own community board. What attractions Masterton have, you ask? Well, they have Queen Elizabeth Park, which has a miniature train that runs around the island, the home of the biennial Wings Over Wairarapa air show featuring restored warplanes from World War II, the Masterton Agricultural and Pastoral Show, plus the famous International Golden Shears sheep shearing competition, where Sir David Fagan has won 16 national titles in sheep shearing. Heading south to Carterton, home of the Daffodil Festival, where people flock from all over the country to pick daffodils from the field, and Carterton turns the town square into a festival. Plus, all year-round attractions is Stonehenge, Aotearoa, the hub of the astronomy in the Wairarapa. Heading south is the South Wairarapa Council, home to 3 big town centres: Greytown, Featherston, and Martinborough. Greytown's home to the Cobblestone Museum, showcasing a life for early settlers who settled in the Wairarapa in the 18 and 1900s. Heading south to Featherston is the Fell Locomotive Museum, showcasing one of the pioneer ways to cross the steep Rimataka Ranges to Wellington, plus the only surviving engine H199, which did a 77-year service going up and down the 1 in 15 grade of the Rimataka Incline. Plus, heading east, make sure you have a sober driver with you, because you're hitting wine territory with the many wineries on your fingertips in Martinborough. Plus, you're probably wanting to know exactly how you're going to vote. Well, in the Masterton District Council, Carterton District Council, and South Wairarapa District Council, they use the voting system first past the post. So remember to get your ticks out on the ballot paper when you cast your vote at this upcoming local body election.
And the questions we think we'll be asking after watching today's show, let's bring it up there. Our first question here is, how many of these councillors will be successful in their election? And we're going to sit there and follow up with question number 2. Will Ron, Mark and Jose Hayes wish they appeared on It's in the Ballot back in 2020? And number 3, have Wairarapa voters been feared from voting system confusion between single transferable vote and first past the post, thanks to Adrian Staples being elected unopposed on Greater Wellington Regional Council? So
So I hope that sits down there and do it. So we've got Diane here who is going to do our lovely job of answering questions. Asking questions. We don't want you to answer, we want you to ask them. So Diane, how are you finding this evening?
I'm finding this evening fabulous. I'm a first timer, so hey, I will go to you, Sam. You're the man.
No problem. Just remember that's the camera. Those are the. Yeah, you've got your lovely camera there. Okay, so now with it's in the ballot, we have with the great questions there, we have with the thing with the TV show, we have two very questions. One of those questions is dodged the question. The other question is deferred the question to another candidate. The principle behind that is for the candidates to keep them at the end because using them could not be seen as trying to get out of difficult situations. And we don't know if we want our elected officials in that. So let's sit there and start off with Ron. Which box would you like to sit there and pick?
Try legs 11, eh?
An incredibly secret squirrel above all. So
Well, yes,
sticks out.
I know. I don't even know what's in the boxes. I know if you know. I don't know which questions are in which boxes.
Hopefully a sandwich.
How are we going over there?
Should come up on screen because I pushed the button.
Yes.
Oh goodness, I thought these were short questions. Okay. Right, Rob. Gravel is no longer being extracted from our rivers due to the environmental effects. However, this is creating flooding issues as the riverbeds rise. Gravel is still needed for development, so land gravel quarries are being developed, which are also creating environmental effects. How can we gain access to river gravel to ensure that gravel is available from rivers to minimise flooding effects and is available for development?
And just to check the number that's on the card. Because the number doesn't match what's on the screen.
It absolutely does not. I've got a 27 and this is 11. So, okay.
So,
Oh,
so you push 27 on the tablet. Yeah. That's why I was like looking at it, it's like,
That's-
So are we allowed the, you know, this can be left for the bloopers.
Yeah, but I asked for 11.
Clearly not. Let's go with 27.
Yeah, so now we've got 27 on the screen and we'll get Ron's answer.
But I picked 11. Okay, so gravel. Look, I think everybody knows that gravel is fundamentally important for all of our roading systems, and probably the biggest ticket on any rural provincial council in terms of costs is roading. And if you're looking at the building programs going on, gravel and cement are essential. So we have to continue to get access. So I don't know why we're in this position where the gravel is not being allowed to be extracted from the rivers. But what I do know is in the last month or so, there's more gravel come down from those mountains than I've ever seen. Well, I have seen in a very, very long time, blocking up our rivers, blocking up our streams. I think fundamentally we've got to redress that question. Now, whether that comes back to strong, forceful advocacy by the mayors at regional council level, or at government level, whether this is an RMA stick, it has to be changed because it is far easier for us if we work for the ecology to extract gravel out of those rivers, as we all have always been doing. Simple.
Okay, Ben, you're up next. Ooh. I'll have box number 12.
Box number 12. Okay, and it's here. Hooray.
So you press 10 on the tablet. As I say, you're the first person that sees all the questions.
Question number 10. Should councils employ public relations teams?
I think councils should actually employ or should have a decent comms or communications person. Public relations is something else entirely. You need a decent communication person or a decent communication contractor to make sure that you effectively get the message across. And that's also a two-way street as well. You actually need the people in the community to actually have the channel to the council. Thank you.
Okay, let's go for Steve.
Number 8, please.
Okay, this is another long one. Are you ready, Steve? Dog owners in Christchurch have been issued with a lifelong metal disc engraved with their pet's unique identification number from June 2022 under a change to dog registrations that will help the environment and save money. Do you think council should adopt this policy?
I'd rather have the other 2 questions.
You haven't got a booby question.
I'm going to vote for this guy.
No, I think it probably is a good idea. Dog registration, it is a costly thing, and it sounds like they're trying to save the environment. Everyone is, and I think probably if everyone adopted the same policy, it might be a good way of sorting issues. So I agree with the issue.
Okay, Joe. What box number do you fancy?
Number 15.
Number 15, and let's do my hearing for number 15. We won't mention that someone in Wellington left 6 boxes behind, but hey.
Shut up.
They're city folk, they just don't understand the way it's done over the side of the room and tuckers. Okay, Joe. Water is a precious and needed resource. Should councils make it compulsory for houses to install water tank storage for watering their garden and/or offer tank storage at a discounted price?
I have an issue with compulsory. I think if you're going to have compulsory, it should be on new builds from, say, 2024 onwards, if that's where you want to go. And I think that the council should, if that's what they have in their plans about tanks, is to be able to subsidise those who want to have a tank in their backyards for watering their gardens.
Okay, let's go for Claire.
27.
So
27.
Claire's chosen her age, clearly.
Absolutely.
Right.
I thought
You
the
made
magic,
it easy for me. You found one.
I thought the magic age was 21.
In the Wairarapa, it's 27.
Oh, okay. Trying to work out when I can sit there and give a 27th birthday card for Grandma now. I gave her for her 84th birthday at 21st.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Okay, here we go, Claire. In your opinion, did the Wairarapa councils handle the vaccine pass mandates well?
No, I don't think they did. And the reason being is we are a democracy and the mandates split our communities really, really badly. If we are in any time to implement any mandate, we have to have democracy, we have to have our public, everybody in our community cared for, looked after and respected for their views. So no, I do not think the mandates were a good thing for our communities. However, I do believe that Masterton was very good in looking at allowing the community to access their library, and I would have liked our South Wairarapa Council to have more governance over this issue. Thank you.
Okay, Mary.
Number 9, please.
Number 9, right. Hop over here for number 9. It's not my fault boxes were left behind.
I know, but I'll blame my cat who wanted to lay on the bed before I left and just didn't want to leave my room.
Okay, here we go. What do you think was the biggest issue for Wairarapa councils in the last term, as in 2019 to 2022?
Oh, the biggest issue at the moment is the 3 waters, and that has started now being an issue. So yeah, definitely it's the three waters. And I believe that the councils should be pushing back against central government, that we should have local decision making for things that affect the community, and Three Waters is an asset grab basically, and we need to keep the ownership within the community. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Daphne.
Taco, 10.
I like someone who actually picks one that I can see. Thank you, Daphne. Okay, right, Daphne, do you think the Wairarapa Council should amalgamate?
Thank you. I think this is an issue that maybe could be divided into a couple of aspects. I don't believe that there's a lot of benefit in having a large council making decisions from the top. I think decision making should be at a local level. That is still possible with amalgamation, but the actual structure would need to be defined quite clearly. I do see there are possible administrative benefits of amalgamation, but I'd be concerned if that meant that local community involvement and control at a local level was lost. Thank you.
Okay, Roger.
Number 18.
Number 18. Okay, right. I've just got two to myself. It must be a special question. Oh, it's because the other hole broke. Okay. Right, suspense. Okay. Do you think that the future for local government panel will deliver a report that will recommend a workable way forward for the sector?
Well, what I would firstly say is it isn't a workable way forward they'll produce. They'll produce a starting point for discussion. I think we all need to look at it and be fully involved in a discussion on it. But I think trying to second guess what it might come up with, there is the Three Waters hanging over us. If that goes ahead, and this is probably going to assume that it would, then councils will be a lot smaller. Amalgamation will no doubt be on the agenda again. I nearly said rear its ugly head, but I only meant that in that it keeps coming back as an issue. And with councils smaller, we need to look at that. So I think the issue for me is not whether we have amalgamation, but how services are delivered, and in particular, local accountability.
Okay, back to Ron.
Number 2.
Number 2. We'll just put it up so everybody can see. Okay, Ron, what do you consider to be council's key responsibilities and what order of priority?
Well, I think the most importantly, and the one that seems to have troubled Carterton in the last 3 years, is governance skills. That's keeping a tab on management, what they're doing, setting the strategic plan, setting the vision, setting the plan down, and then and approving budgets. That's all part of it. But from what I've witnessed over the last 3 years, it's the ability of councillors to question management, to keep their eye on what management's doing, making sure projects are delivered to budget on time, making sure that the priorities that they're selecting are realistic and are affordable. And most importantly, absolutely, having an open ear and listening to the members and fully understanding and accepting what they see as the priorities. Of course, there are those who, there's always going to be contest and debate in the community. But, I'd simply say infrastructure, good quality democracy, and monitoring management and their performance.
Okay, let's go to Steve.
Box number 3, please.
Okay, that's right. Let's go. I'm just going really slowly to build the suspense. Okay, Steve, do you think that the council, mayor and councillors, have enough say in the way the council is run?
Yes, so I think they do. That's their job. To be there as the head to run everything. When there's issues, it all comes back to them, doesn't it, Ron? Yeah.
It certainly does.
And so, yeah, that's what we voted, the councillors are voted in for, and the mayors are in for. They're there to take the heat when things go wrong, and sort out the issues. And so they are responsible, and so that's how that's for the running of the council. That's their job. That's what they put their hand up for. Thank you.
Okay, Claire.
19.
19?
19 on the table.
My aim system's gone into connection failed.
Yeah, I've got the same
Attempt
thing
to
on mine.
connect to the host timed out, so I'm not going to get the questions on screen. So.
No, well, let's just
But that's
keep
okay.
going.
Claire's an intelligent lady, she'll just wing it. Right,
Thank
are
you.
we ready? In your view, is central government overloading councils with regulation and redistribution?
Yes and no. I think it is very important that central government does give direction to local councils. However, where local councils have to take on legislation, funding must follow. It is not up to the ratepayer to pay for government wills. And so at this stage, I do agree that if we are to follow legislation, like the new RMA and stuff, funding must follow.
Okay, Daphne.
Ruatako, 20.
And I do like that.
This makes my job a lot easier because I no longer have to push the button, put it on screen. But does that mean the people at home can't see the questions there?
No, Evie can still do them on the screen. It's just what we can't put them on these screens.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Aha, you have a special card which says defer the question to another candidate. So I get that to her to hold on to when she gets a curly one. She can pass it to someone on stage that she doesn't really like. Is that the way it works?
I think
There's
that's
no one
perfectly
here.
Fine, and that's exactly what it's meant to be.
Oh no, that's
And now you get to choose
Lucky
another
you.
box number so we can keep some questions coming.
Ruatako Ma Toru, 23.
I like the way you're picking ones at the front to make my job easier.
I have some news. Mine's working again. You need to reboot your tablet.
Okay, let's go. Yep, mine has come up. Thank you very much. Thank you to the IT people and save the day. Here we go. Do you think the provision and beautification of dog amenities should be paid by ratepayers or should they be covered by dog owners' registration fees?
Thank you. There are a number of services that the council provides that could be viewed as single interest group benefits, but I think that the whole of the community benefits from a lot of those, whether it's the golf club, green space or whatever. So for dog owners, yep, they get a special benefit from having dog facilities, but I think so does the rest of the community. So while some of that cost needs to be picked up by the people who use the facility the most, I think the rest of the community also chips in because it benefits all of us. And as a dog owner, you have to love them.
Okay, Ben.
I'll have box number 21.
So will they be Ruatako Matahi?
No. No, it's just showing off.
I can't help it if I went to school in the 90s.
You're referring that we understood it.
Well, no, we all got to Te Reo, but I think numbers might have been my strength because I mean I can sit there and do books quite easily, so that might be why the reason I know the numbers off by heart.
Right, let's move on. Councils are being given roles and responsibilities from central government coming from regulation and legislation. These are referred to as unfunded mandates. What is your opinion on the unfunded mandates from central government?
My opinion is, and this is as follows, is that central government doesn't wake up on a Monday and then enacts a law on Thursday at 5:30. There is a lot of information going backwards and forwards. And if local government, and the key aspects there would be the mayors, have a decent and good and productive relationship with central government, and that's through either the government MPs or the opposition MPs who happen to be in the electorate, and they make their concerns heard well in advance of legislation passing, then this type of issue that comes to a bit of a head can be minimised through decent process and a respectful relationship. Thank you.
Okay, Joe.
Is 16 still there?
16 is still here. Yeah. Joe, what do you think will be the 3 biggest issues for councils in the next term, 2022 to 2025?
3 waters, climate change, and for the local ratepayers is trying to keep rates at an affordable amount.
Okay, Mary.
Number 1, please.
Finally, someone picked the top.
Well, I remember from the Oharu show, Tracy Martin always said her particular statements of, and we use this one, and this gets to 1. It was quite funny how she always managed to figure out how to get it to number 1. So, yeah, some fun things from previous shows.
Okay. How should councils be dealing with dust nuisance on unsealed rural roads?
Well, that's not something I know much about, but I'm kind of guessing that the problem is when people drive too fast down a gravel road and it brings up all the dust everywhere and it goes onto the other cars and it affects their vision when they're driving. So I would think that perhaps what we need to do is encourage people to drive more slowly down the gravel roads. But I would defer actually to people who have more experience in that issue than I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like my card?
Where I'm from in Wellington, we don't have any gravel roads up beyond the council boundaries, but I do know that's quite a joy of that and fun to drive along. Roger, you're up next.
22, if it's still there.
22 is still here, Roger. Screen. Okay, Roger. Our wastewater management is contracted out to a commercial company called Earth Care Environmental. Do you think waste management should be a council-operated activity and back in-house?
Well, I would tend to say, and this is me speaking as a consultant, I actually think in-house tends to be better. I would first of all want a report from the chief executive of the ins and the outs of it. I think it is a strength of the Wairarapa Councils that we do have shared services, and for this one in particular, it sounds to me like it's one that would lend itself to being put out to a firm outside the council, simply because of 3 councils. It's easier to have one organisation doing all the waste, all the waste collection, that sort of thing. With some other things, I would tend to think in-house if it can be. Yeah, great, thanks.
Okay, let's go to Steve for round 3.
29, yeah.
Do you have 29?
see online, there's not much chatter in the comments. Haven't had one for a while.
And they also want to make a cup of coffee. Okay, are we ready to read? Should rural and residential ratepayers be paying for upgrading the commercial zone, your CBD?
Probably, well, probably a bit of a split on that one. You know, the rural paying for that. No, I probably, can I pass on that question?
Okay. Steve goes to Joe. Try to make sure these not in the same order.
Yeah, right.
24.
24, cool.
I normally have a sheet of the list out in orders, but I didn't have time to sit here and print one out for this one. So for all future shows, they'll be put for a randomizer on there. But at the moment, I'm trying to do randomizing while trying to remember exactly where I'm going down the list and making sure I'm not double up and not doubling up and making sure everyone will have 3 questions before 8 o'clock.
Oh.
Cool, right, are we ready, Joe? Do you think climate change should be the #1 concern at the ballot box?
I think that there is going to be a few number ones at the ballot box. Climate change will be one, 3 waters will be another. So I think there'll be an equal #1. Thank you.
Okay, Claire.
Number 30, please.
Okay, see, wasn't that right? You need to angle them
It
round so
was,
you can actually
yeah,
see them.
that was great.
I don't know what I'm going to do when we get to the end and the missing 3 boxes don't actually have numbers.
You can make
We'll
up the
worry
question.
about that when we get to it.
Make up the
I
question.
definitely know I've got one in 30 that came on the right.
Okay, cool, right. Let's load this up for the viewing audience. Right, clear. What can councils do to fight back against over-regulation and legislation driven by central government?
It's a difficult one for me. The difficulty is legislation really forces councils to follow what the central government does. And so in this respect, I think we need to consult really, really well with our councils, with our communities. We need to strengthen our community boards so they can actually put a voice forward on behalf of their communities. So government legislation is really a guideline, and I think our council needs, as a councillor, I would say we need to fit it for purpose for our community. So for Featherston, we would like to prioritise our sewage, our funding, our flooding, our wastewater and our roading, so that we can actually have a safe community because of the master plan that is about to be going. We cannot allow a master plan to go ahead with our infrastructure in such terrible disorder. So central government legislation, I don't think covers that, but there is 3 parts of the RMA, and there is going to be a building part in that we need to know more about.
Okay, Mary.
Number 7, please.
Right.
Get the right one. Accidentally hit the brake.
And you really hit them with one hand, so you can talk at the same time.
Oh, loving it there.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty much. Right. Okay, and your question is, what is your opinion about the Wairarapa Cycle Trails Network and who should pay?
I think that the cycle network is really fantastic, actually. I think it would be a great thing for the Wairarapa. Who should pay? That's a much more difficult issue, because we have to weigh that up against taking the money from rates. You know, if the council's asked to contribute, then how much, can people afford to pay? Because the rates is a big issue, and a lot of people are really struggling to pay the rates. So I would imagine that the council should be contributing something, because I think most people in the community probably do want the cycle trail, but it would just have to be tempered against the rates and considering everyone in the community.
Okay, Ben.
Ooh, I'll have box number 6, please. I'm hoping for a tumble dryer.
So how much money am I meant to be offering?
That'll be 200, thanks, Sam.
And this is money or the bag.
Okay, so are we ready? Should councils be forced to treat their potable water with fluoride?
Right. It's the word forced I have an issue with. I don't think councils should be forced to do that. I think that should be a community decision and led by a referendum. And then at the end of that, after a well-educated campaign, all the facts are on the table, then the community makes the decision for the community. There is going to be some people who will say, no, I don't want fluoride in my water, and that's their choice. What options exist for them to have their wishes? Can they go on to tank water? They will still have to have some services, obviously, to deal with grey and black water, the other 3 waters. And I would suggest that they could incorporate something I've seen in other councils, which was you have a meter attached to your water tank, and you're actually billed for 75 or 80% of that, which allows you to drink your own water, and then it allows the other waters to be reticulated away in the council system. Thank you.
I like the sound of that project. Brian, standing over here, we can take your money to as well.
Full of ideas, Sam, mate.
I do like that. Ron.
Yes. I don't want to answer that other question as well, but never mind. I mean, if they want to come put fluoride in my tank water, good luck with that one. Good luck with that one. That ain't going to happen. But anyway, let's try 4.
I wonder if they'll actually be able to manage to maintain it to the standards, or would they end up overdosing or underdosing?
Well, they're gonna go to every farmer that's got a well, and they're going to fluoridate as well, or the aquifers. Oh, this is ridiculous.
I agree.
Now I have to say good choice because you've got one of the special ones which says dodge the question.
Oh. So what does that mean? Just hold the card or what? Or I can ask, I can take the question.
In case you have a curve.
Oh, right,
later on,
yeah.
not that you
Does that mean I can take someone else's question when it gets and I like it?
I love it.
Well, you know, some of those questions that were asked before, I really like them, like the dust one. Boy, have we had problems with our road. That's been an ongoing issue.
So now, since you've got dodged the question, let's get another box for you to
Okay.
answer a question.
Oh, crikey. So many decisions to make in one night.
I know.
Oh,
You wanna be mayor?
what's over that side over there? What numbers are over there?
We'll just grab a card.
Oh, take one on the, being a centrist, take the one in the centre.
load it up for the viewing audience.
Better be a good one. Oh, I can use this, can't I?
Straight down the middle sort of man. Right.
Oh, this one.
How respectful is the relationship between central and local government?
Right now, it's not. It's not respectful. If it were respectful, mayors would have a place in Parliament where they're listened to, where their voices around Three Waters would be heard. When they go to Parliament and when they talk to the minister, and I've seen the minister come to local government conferences, give their speech and walk out. And the irony is that a lot of those ministers end up standing for local council when they're either booted out of Parliament or they left. And maybe they should do it the other way around. They should be a mayor and be a councillor, then go to Parliament. Then they might have a better understanding of just what councillors provide. No, I've seen some terrible local government ministers, Nick Smith, and I've seen some really good ones, but I just can't remember the names of the good ones. So at the end of the day, if the relationship was functional, the mayors and the councillors would be the first people that the minister would be talking to before they bring in legislation which has a massive impact on ratepayers through implementation. Oh, I could keep going. Give me another 2 minutes. Yeah. It's not respectful.
Okay, Roger.
Should have a drum roll, shouldn't we? Wow, this is a
Oh,
lengthy
and
one, right?
online it does actually play a tune. Yeah, it's just in order for us to make it work over here, it'll be pressing up and down on a button, and I think that is a little bit too much expectation on our crew over in the corner.
Fair enough, you're clearly not planning with us then. Right.
I know. I could write them out a check and it would still bounce.
Gosh, that's so much checks. I don't know where it's on. Right, are we ready? It's quite lengthy, so listen up. Talking to the older generation who remember the days of borough and county councils, they often reflect and say that was when councils were easy to deal with. What do you think about the current model of local government? Do you think it should be centralised or decentralised?
Well, I don't think the problem is the model either being right or wrong as to whether the council, the particular council, makes it work or not. Councils can be very secretive and closed, or they can be very open. So I think that, to put it simply, councillors should be accessible to the public. If you're the public, you can tell your councillor what they want, and they should be seeking your views. Meet together, give a clear expectation to the chief executive, and then the chief executive gives a clear expectation to the staff. And that's how it should work. I don't think it's about the model being broken or being right. Should it be centralised or decentralised? I tend to go for decentralisation because I've worked in very large councils, very small councils, and generally local is better attuned to people's needs, therefore more efficient. But often the devil is in the detail.
Okay, Daphne.
Rima, 5.
It's hidden away, listening. Right. Okay, definitely. Wairarapa councils are getting a reputation for projects exceeding budget. What controls would you propose to stop this happening in the future?
Thank you. I guess it's a problem with a number of projects that budget is one of the constraints. And the way that a lot of people manage that is with good project management. So identifying clear options and objectives early on, and then monitoring. The worst thing, I think, is when it's a surprise at the end of the project, because things can often happen during the project to bring it back on budget, make changes, and be aware of what's happening. So I think project disciplines aren't across the board at the council level, and that would make a significant difference in managing the budget. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have finished this round of questions now. So let's now put that one back on there so we get back to the It's in the Ballot logo. So we're going to take a bit of a break here, a bit of a stretcher, and let the audience here know their candidates stand there, and then we'll be back for hard-hitting questions.
How long?
5 minutes.
Are you ready to vote in this local body elections? Do you know who to vote for? How many positions are you voting for? Why so many positions? What's the difference between a city council and a regional council? Why should you vote for the councillors? Are they as important as the mayor? Who are these people? What makes them qualified for your vote? Are you meant to put a tick here or a number there? What is the difference between a single transferable vote and first past the post? What is the candidate's track record? How do candidates perform at Meet the Candidates? Are they able to answer the tough questions? And where can you find out more information? It looks like you've come to the right place. It's in the Ballot, bringing you Election 2022, your local body election show, where you can find out who's standing in your area, how well they perform against their opponents, whether they choose to turn up, what voting system they use in your area, and who is the right person for your vote. You can follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, watch us on Twitch, and highlights posted on TikTok.
Okay, welcome back, and now it's time for hard-hitting questions. Okay, so with hard-hitting questions there, these are issues associated with very important issues with the community here. And with all that's in the ballot shows, free waters is a big concern. So they're going to be hard-hitting question number one. So whether we're here in the Wairarapa, whether we're next Monday at Only Kotel or next Tuesday in Upper Hutt, question number one for hard-hitting questions will be, do you support the free waters reforms? Let's start with Mary.
No, I don't. I think that the Three Waters needs to stay in control of the local councils. It's the local communities that have paid for the infrastructure and the maintenance of that over the years, and the decision making around those three different areas of delivery should be made by the community, where as much as possible. And I see it just basically as an asset grab by the government. So no, definitely opposed, and I hope many councils will support the injunction that some of the councils are taking to, against central government.
Okay, Joe.
I agree. I disagree with the Three Waters. I think it's a really undemocratic process that's happened. I think the legislation is flawed. There's been no communication. They say they've communicated with iwi. They haven't for Rangitane or Ngāti Kahanunu. And I think that the government needs to rescind the whole thing, take it all back, or repeal it, or do whatever it is that they need to do to get it off the table for this round, and let the councils make that decision.
Okay, I'm just trying to, it's Roger that's
Yeah.
in the middle? Yeah, Roger, yeah, I'm trying to remember the names.
Right. Well, in a word, no. The phrase "sledgehammer to crack a nut" comes to mind. There certainly is an issue to do with water quality, but I wouldn't see this as the answer. Councils differ. Some councils have kept on top of their water asset management, some haven't. It's not across the board that councils have neglected, and taking it into something outside councils won't solve the problem, if there is a problem. I would favour instead the government could put more expectations backed by some funding support, keep the waters owned by councils as they are now, but keep on top of the asset management. Asset management's a complex thing. You need to renew things every so many years and keep on top of it, not just do patching up maintenance. So it's an asset management issue rather than an organisational issue, and a funding issue as well.
Yeah, it's Stephanie.
Yes, yes, thank you. I think I'm going to defer to Henry Ford here. If you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And we absolutely need reform. Our Three Waters are in a terrible state. We've got flooding, we've got water going into our waterways, we've got issues with drinking water. So if we keep doing what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. So I do support radical reform because I think we need radical solutions. Whether this is the right model for reform and whether it can be adapted so that it works for us as local councils, I'm not sure yet. I think the partnership model is very good, and I think we'll get a better solution with a partnership model. And it'll be up to us as councillors to make sure that it does work for our local communities. If we believe that we'll be listening to the local communities for the decisions that we make, we should be confident that we can listen and take those views to a different structure if that's what comes about. Thank you.
Okay, Claire.
No, I don't agree with the Three Waters reform. I believe that it is an asset grab, as Mary said. I also believe that it is a way of contracting out the water services, even though the water will not be owned. It is taking away democracy from our communities, and we know what we need done in our community. If you look at Wellington Water, which is only doing about 4 councils, and the shambles that it has, Featherston is in an absolute quagmire. Sewage is everywhere. So if we have one big rohe from Gisborne right down to Piranoa, we will not be able to function as a small council. We need to bring it, as Daphne says, a different model and consulting with the experts in our community.
And I think to fill with Wellington Water at 6 councils.
Sorry,
But
6
that's all right,
councils.
I don't mind. I don't mind
If
that.
Wellington Water can't deal with 6 councils, then I don't see how 52 councils can be dealt with by
Exactly.
one body.
Makes sense. Rob?
Yeah, no, I don't support the Three Waters proposal by the government. It astonishes me that they're pursuing it, given that it was designed by Nick Smith right at the outset. And it's bizarre, but, you know, National Labour, Tweedledee and Tweedledum sometimes. But fundamentally, all the arguments I've heard to me are valid. It's not so much as an asset grab, it's an asset strip. It's going to undermine the financial viability of small councils if you truly believe in localism and small councils controlling their assets and the people being able to have a direct say to those councils how those assets are operated. This is not going to help you. It will distance the governance from the people when we've all got Auckland to look at as a model. I think basically, if you look at where it came from a contamination issue up in Havelock North, not Rangiora, not South Wairarapa. 150 years of local government managing those assets, and we've only had 2 occasions where there's been a large water contamination problem. I think the model's not broken, so there's nothing to fix.
Okay, Steve.
Yes, totally disagrees. Three Waters. I think Carlton's got a pretty good grip on what's happening. They're doing wastewater. They're investing in infrastructure. As you said, it'd be an asset grab. All the money that's been invested in it, it'll just be taken away. Totally not a good look. So no, Three Waters is just another asset grab, and bigger isn't better. We've seen so many things that the government have come up with, and big projects, and they just go totally outside their cost analysis.
Alrighty. I support reform where reform is needed and required. Water is one of those core services. When you turn your tap on, you need drinking water to come out of it. I'm not convinced that Three Waters is the right mechanism, particularly for Carterton and particularly for those councils who have actually sorted out their water reticulations and their sewerage systems. This is a can that can't be kicked down the road anymore. It's going to be really expensive, and actually most voters should actually thank Minister Mahuta for actually making this the primary thing that we need to consider when we make our voting decisions. Water services, as I said, is central. It needs to be fit for purpose. I think there are other mechanisms that we can use, and there are people on this panel who are actually well versed in sourcing funding for particular infrastructure investments like this from central government. Thank you.
Okay, now let's head for hard-hitting question number 2, which is more of a local one. Do you think we should share a dog pound with neighbouring councils? So let's start off with Mary.
I'm not sure really. I would have to look at all the details about that. Maybe we should, maybe that makes sense, but I would need to know all the details before I could really have an opinion on that.
Okay, Joe.
I think for economies of scale, it would be good to share a dog pound across the 3 councils, and because the fact that they are 3 smaller councils, and we need to be able to do something together that takes care of the fact that we're all rural bound, we are a rural community. So yes.
Roger.
Well, I'd say preferably if councils can agree on a shared facility, yes. But the main thing is to have a dog pound or dog pounds. If we can't reach agreements, then, you know, £1 for each council may be the answer. We shouldn't get bogged down with this. The issue of the dog pound, some people watching this may not be aware of this. It's been used as a kind of example of why shared services don't work. Well, it's just one issue that has run into problems. We have a shared waste collection service. We have some of the councils have a shared library service. We have shared economic development strategy. We have a shared bike trails plan. There's a whole lot of things that are shared successfully. We shouldn't get bogged down on this. If we can't reach agreements, well, run separate pounds. And there are advantages of that because the Wairarapa is quite a big geographical area. If the pound is in Masterton and you're in Martinborough, that's a long way.
Daphne?
Not having sort of access to some of the detail, my intuition says a problem like this should not have taken 5 years and many $100,000 of costs for single numbers of dogs. So it'd probably go down as a case study of how not to manage a project. And we talked earlier about the fact that councils aren't good at managing projects within budgets. So I do think that the will to cooperate with other councils and to collaborate on possible projects for the benefit of all should be investigated further with future things. And possibly going forward, if we do have separate pounds, there will be some collaboration across that. Thanks.
Okay, clear.
This is a very interesting thing for me, issue for me, due to the fact that our council has actually addressed the issue by, if they find a dog, they will tag it and take it back to its owner, so they don't need to put it into a pound. At the moment, we do have a really good facility where dogs stay. It would probably be a better thing to ask them to expand or put in more dog kennels to house. Apparently, it's only about 2 to 3 dogs a month or a week. So we might get at the most 10 dogs in that month. So you wouldn't need a massive dog pound costing over the ratepayer thousands of dollars, when really we could ask our local community to possibly expand their business to put these dogs in.
That sounds very vicious. I like the approach. And I like the idea to take the dog back to the owner. Rob?
Yeah, look, it's astonishing how the councils have got themselves tied up in this issue, and I've heard all the excuses. It's government legislation, it's government regulation. Well, the first thing is go and talk to the minister about rationalising that. But also, you need to think outside the square. I mean, why would you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building a dog kennel if the SPCA is currently licensed to take in strays? I mean, I know the SPCA is short of money. Why could they not be the contracted service provider to house and look after a dog for the one night that seems to be the norm here in Carterton? I'm thinking of Carterton. I'm thinking of our rates right now, and I'm thinking of how our budgets are very constrained. $100,000, $300,000 to build a dog kennel? I don't think so. Think outside the square. Pet motels, they seem to be able to have dogs in them weeks after, week on week. So why can't they be contracted as a service provider to look after a dog for one night?
Yeah, I think there could be a shared cost. The amount of dogs that, from what I can gather, that are impounded, it's a huge amount of cost per council for the small amount of dogs they're impounding each year. If you in the costs, a lot of the regulations, from what I can gather, they're like 5-star motels, and it's like you have the homeless trying to get in there. But I think it's going to be a big spend that we just don't need, and I do think if we were to share it, it would be a much more economical position.
Okay, then.
This is a fascinating question from the point of view that it just seems so simple to answer, is that you just need the council to get along and share facilities. And if they can't, well, then you've got a bigger problem. But realistically, dogs, as I picked up on what Ron said, we could actually harvest out some of those dog kennels around the area. The other thing is every dog should have a tag on it with a contact phone number of the registered owner, so we can minimize the amount of time and effort and capital that we have to spend on returning the dog to its rightful owner. Thank you.
Okay, now let's head on to hard-hitting question number 3. I am concerned I might not be able to live in this community. I am retired and living on a fixed income which is not keeping up with inflation. Rates have been increasing at 5 to 6% every year. What can be done at getting rates to an affordable level for ratepayers like me? Sounds like a commissioner. Let's start off with Ben, so we'll go in the reverse order this time.
Alrighty then. This is a major issue for those on fixed incomes, because rates is the wonderful love letter that you get 4 times a year and ask you very nicely to put $1,000 into a bank account. My thoughts basically are, what if we didn't actually charge GST on top of rates? Why haven't we explored all the options when it comes to actually dealing with this rather growing issue? There's going to be more people who are on fixed incomes in the next 20 years, and they need to have more options upon which to pay some, if not all, of their rates, and councils will need to be open to other mechanisms that they can use to actually decrease the burden on these people.
Yeah, I think, say, you talk about fixed income or pensioner type thing, it's got to be really, really hard. You look at the rates on anyone on a fixed income and without added income, really, really hard. And see the people struggling. Our costs, we don't get decreases in
One of the few things that goes up and then comes down. Ron.
Yeah, well, I think the fact of the matter is that the rates will always go up. The question is, how much are they going to go up by? And who controls that? Well, the council controls that. The councillors do. And one of the things I raised in my submission to Carterton District Council on the long-term plan was rates affordability and the impact on people, particularly those on superannuation, who have fixed incomes with rising property values. And I guess the major contributor, what I objected to, was the vanity projects that were being run by this council. You know, you can, if you have a sewage plant that's over time, over budget, a clock tower that's over time, over budget, and that's just to name 2 of the cost blowouts at council. If you're wanting to build a new council building and beautify Broadway at $8.4 million, I'm sorry, you got your priorities wrong. So my first priority as mayor is to get these vanity projects off the books and focus on core business and try and keep the rates increases as low as we can.
Well, hi Ben, I would actually like to be in your rates thing. We went up 30% this year. So I'd like to move to yours because I wouldn't mind a 6% rate increase.
Actually, where I live, even though I'm in the regional, it's about 8%. So,
Well,
and that's one with the city council. Yeah, I've been placing them now. It's about $4,200 a year, which is a bit of a jump from when I first moved to Wellington. It was about $2.5 grand for the same time.
Absolutely. But to be serious, South Wairarapa does have a rate rebate. And when I brought the issue up of affordability at the community board, they said, oh, we'll tell all these people to go for a rate rebate because they will be able to get less, they will be able to get a refund or less rates on what they can do. But that isn't the issue. The issue is the vanity projects. We've got to do our infrastructure. And when that's done, let's look at making us beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, when we look at affordability, I think we've got to look at what can we afford, and that really means going back to basics, breaking it down to say, what are the projects that are on the table? What are the costs? Are they reasonable costs? Can we do it any cheaper? Are we getting real value for money? Can we postpone something or move it forward? Can we work with other councils? And really break it down just like we do at home to ensure that we don't go over our budgets at home. So I think that we can do a lot. We can also communicate a heck of a lot better so that people know what they're getting for their money and they understand the trade-offs and the issues. So communication and a more rigorous analysis of the costs and benefits of the rates, I think will first of all put people's minds at rest. They'll know that where the money is going and what they're getting for it, and they can hold us to account to make sure that we don't waste it. Thank you.
Okay, Roger.
Well, I would say the problem isn't rates. The problem is all the things that are required to be paid for out of rates, in particular the unfunded mandates. Now, I would agree with Ron about vanity projects. I would tend to say first priority basic infrastructure. But the biggie for me is the unfunded mandates. Rates actually are quite efficient. There have been other suggestions like local income tax. But land doesn't move house. And the idea that tenants don't pay rates, well, they pay through their rent. Any property owner recoups the cost of the rates through the rent. So land doesn't move. So it's an efficient system, but you have a whole load of mandates without the funding support. Roading is an exception. You get money for roading and transport. If only we could have that for other areas as well. And then the rates wouldn't be a burden they are now.
Joe.
Yes, I agree with what my colleagues here on the panel have actually said. Every single one of them. Unfunded mandates is something that has really stuck a crawl with me, and I think that it's unfair for government to actually expect that from councils. Affordable rates has always been and will always be a subject for local councils, and especially these ones here tonight. So what do I think about that? What do I know about that? I think that councils should do what Ron has actually said and what the others have said is get back to their core business. Some of these vanity projects are just that. And, you know, in Masterton, we're looking at a town hall that people want to keep. We're looking at a civic centre that people want to build. All of these are going to cost a lot of money while they're busy themselves putting up the streets in the main in Queen Street. So all of those things need to go back to the drawing board and need to be costed well and make sure it's affordable for our ratepayers, especially those that are struggling to pay the rates, those on super.
Yeah, actually, I agree with what people have said here as well. The unfunded mandates is an issue, and the central government, you know, dictating to the local councils about spending money. For instance, fluoridation, that is definitely not a requirement for the drinking water. Councils just need to provide clean, potable water for people to drink. They don't need a medicine added to their water. So, and there's much better ways of dealing with things like dental decay, but that requires councillors to actually look at each issue in detail and not just go along with what they may have heard or what they just happen to believe because they've read something in the media and that's what they think that people think. They actually need to do their own research about those sort of issues.
So before we head off for closing statements, I want to ask something a bit supplementary. What is the rates bill on each of your properties that you reside at, or if you're in a rental and you look up the rates database, what they are on the rates database? Who wants to start off?
I've got a block of land, I'll call it a block of land. I pay probably a bit over $10,000 a year in rates. I call that excessive. I don't have a footpath.
Who wants to go next on how much the rates are?
I can go next. Ours are about 5,000 now. We started off and they were about 600 20 years ago. And this year they went up $300 per quarter. So really, when you're on a fixed income, especially in the COVID climate where you couldn't earn a living, it was really, really difficult to be able to pay the rates. They went up 32%.
Pretty scary. You about to say something, Ben?
My rates here are $4,000 a year for about 2,000 squares on a house and section at the back end of south end of Carterton. That's kind of similar to what I was paying when I lived in Auckland and Rodney, but there it was a little less. But then we had to pay separately for our water. And that was no fun.
Yes. Thank goodness we don't have water meters one time. Terrible that. Who else would like to give their
I'll have a go. I'm used to thinking of it for individual bills, so it's 1,200 and something per quarter, so that would be about 5,000 a year. But I've been living where I am for I think 8 years. 8 years ago it was 800 and something, so it gives you an idea how much it's gone up.
Who else?
I'm a small lifestyle block, so zoned rural, and paying high 3,000.
Anyone else who wants to let alone what their rates bills are?
Yeah, I think mine are about 2.5, and but yeah, I think when we bought them were 900. But you know, one of the things that I do know is that living in the country, we're absolutely dependent on roads to get us into the city. And the cost of roading is pretty heavy. I know that. I don't object, like some people, to paying towards the running of the library and towards the maintenance of the town facilities, because, you know, they're there for all of us, and I don't mind that. I know that my rates are probably different in town. When I was the mayor of Carterton, I was extremely mindful and worried and concerned about elderly citizens who'd lived in their home all their life in Carterton, who through no fault of their own were facing these massive rate charges, but rating bills. But I think we've just got to focus as elected officials on that affordability question, and we really have to take a knife to some of these nice to have vanity projects that are impacting on the long-term plan and the long-term projections of rates.
Say something, Joe?
Yeah, I rent in Masterton, and I've just received a notification to say that my rent's going to go up $144 a week.
Well, that's a bit. I'd like to know what the justification is, because I'm pretty sure the rates don't go up by $144 a week.
I did ask what the justification was. The justification was increase in insurance. Rates weren't mentioned, actually.
No, it's quite often I've seen as those rent increase figures seem to reflect on what the council uses on rates, which is only a small proportion of a total running cost of doing it. I mean, myself as a business owner, I know about, you know, look at your budget, look at your things there. I didn't put up my prices of coffee on the 1st of April because my milk went up 9 cents a bottle, and I found a new coffee supplier that was went down by $7 a kg. And quality was very nice. So, you know, I managed to invent that for my business, but I know not everyone is able to have that one. And yeah, I watched milk like a hawk, just like I watched petrol prices like a hawk.
So consequently, I most probably won't be staying in that rental for much longer after the rent goes up.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
I guess one of the things that goes unseen, but councils are very aware of it, and the CEO in particular, is the funding assistance for rural roads that comes from the government. You know, we all pay excise duty at the petrol pump. We all pay road user charges if we're running diesels. That's all money into the coffers, and we've all councils throughout the rural and provincial councils have had funding assistance for rural roads, and whether it's 50% or 54% or below that, it has a massive impact on small councils with very small budgets. And when a government just takes a knife and lops off 2%, the impact is immediate on ratepayers, and yet they do it and get away with it.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get down closing statements.
We're driving cars on a Mars tonight. We're blasting off to the stars tonight. We wanna go, go. We wanna go, we're driving cars on a Mars tonight. We're blasting off to the stars tonight. We wanna go, go. We wanna go,
Okay, that's definitely very quick. So we're back for candidates' closing statements. I would also like to know from each candidate what would be the first project they would like to achieve when elected onto council. So let's sit there and start off with Ben. So you're the back row. We'll do how we went before.
All right. Well, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm very pleased to stand for Carterton District Council. There are 8 vacancies for District Councillor, and I'm going for one of them, along with 13 other people. So again, I'm returned to Carterton in 2018 with my wife. I strongly believe in local democracy. I strongly believe in standing up. I believe that you need councillors who are reasonable, they are responsible, and they are reliable. I can afford the time. I'm a small business owner. Well, not hugely small. And I bring with me a fresh approach. I used to live here in the late 90s and now have returned in 2018. And with that, I bring absolutely no baggage with me at all. So I'm here for the community. I'm fascinated and actually really quite love working and living in Carterton. It has a huge amount of potential. And I can see that the community is engaged, they're thoughtful, and they know what they want. I would commit to really examining the Three Waters problem and any other issue that comes up. I believe this is incredibly important for the future of Carterton District Council, and I concur with the ideas of actually focusing on core business rather than vanity projects. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Steve.
Right, thank you. Speaking of vanity projects, our sewer plant is, a sewer plant, we've spent a lot of money on the upgrade. Unfortunately, we've been let down in a few areas. There's a lot of finishing off repair work to do. I'd just like to see that finished off. And then we finish off and give it to Three Waters, I guess. But there's certainly a lot of projects that Carterton Council are doing. You know, they're upgrading the sewers, they're doing water. Once again, it's all this Three Water stuff they're doing, and they're spending a lot of money on it, and it's all been forward planned, so it's all part of the big plan. But come Three Waters, that scares the hell out of me. We just spend all this money and then just give it away. So yeah, definitely not Three Waters. But yeah, there's a lot of things they say. I often read about the Wellington, and they say that they'll build a monument, but they look what I did. But they don't dig up the ground and replace the water pipes, because no one looks at the ground and says, "Oh, I can see what you've done there." It's all hidden. So yeah, unfortunately, Carterton's got a lot of upgrading they're doing, which is fine. But having Three Waters come along is a bit scary, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Okay, Ron.
Well, I think now more than ever, I'm standing for Mayor of Carterton, been the Mayor of Carterton twice before, elected twice before. So I have experience. I've served in local government 6 terms, and I've been a cabinet minister. I'm well known. I think right now, more than ever, we are facing some massive challenges in local government, and in particular small councils such as Carterton District. Affordability is a big issue. If I'm to pick a project other than hammering the big issues like Three Waters, for example, if I was to pick a project right now that I would want kicked off immediately, it's a complete review of our long-term plan with a view to cutting out the vanity projects, focusing on core business, focusing on infrastructure. When you have a sewage plant that is massively over budget, behind time, and got some serious risks around its current state, it is time to sit back and cut your cloth according to what you can afford. As the mayor, I tend to work in a very collaborative style. I like people having their say at the table, and I like to thrash out issues until we can find consensus, but I'm not afraid to get people to make a decision when a decision needs to be made. I bring strength, I bring character, I bring knowledge of local government, and I bring a track record. I was a successful MP. I was a successful cabinet minister. Some would say too successful. The Defence Force are not one of those some, because we got record expenditure for defence in my time. I was a successful Veterans Affairs. I was a successful Mayor of Carterton, and it was the job actually that I loved the most. And Carterton's had its tough times. I dealt with the balloon tragedy, which really hurt our community. I just would welcome the chance to serve Carterton again and to get things back on track.
Well, I'm standing as the Featherston councillor because my term on the community board has shown me that council has not been responsive to the community. There has been no accountability, and it has not listened to its community. So what I would like to do is go to my community to support and strengthen the community boards to represent Featherston. But the major issue that Featherston has is its sewage plant. It is all sewage plants in the South Wairarapa are non-compliant. We have spent a lot of money, and it does appear that this council is just waiting and waiting and waiting to do something about it. It is a serious health risk, and an environmental issue, and it is destroying our lake. We also have record flooding, and when we flood, we get sewage coming up all over properties. This isn't good enough because our infrastructure has been left to rot for many, many years. So for Featherston, my priorities would be, let's fix Featherston in its infrastructure. We cannot go ahead with a master plan. In our strategic plan, we have been told we're going to have a master plan with 900 new builds. All the builds are going to be 200 metre sections. And what we've got to realise is that if our infrastructure can't cope with 2,000 people, I do not know how it's going to cope with nearly 4,000. Thank you.
Okay, Daphne.
Thank you. I moved to the Wairarapa in 2000. I love it here, and I'll probably die here. Hopefully not in October. And I do believe that local council is actually at a watershed. I think that the power and control model of the past, where services were delivered to the community, has to change. And it has to move to a model where services are delivered with the community, with collaboration and cooperation across all people. I think a partnership model with iwi around the table will bring much better outcomes for the whole community, and I look forward to working in that situation. And we do have an incredible amount of challenges on the table, and we have to recognize we're not going to solve them all in isolation. So we have to break down the silos that are out there in the community, get people around the table, and look for solutions that will work. I look forward to doing that. I think that that's the way I love to work. And I think that we can work on two levels. One is incremental change. And one of the first things I'll do is make our information more accessible. As an outsider sitting on the sidelines for the past 3 years, I've been incredibly frustrated, and I've learned a new word, obfuscation. And there's no need for it. We can make information available in a way that people can understand it, and we need to do that. And so if we continue to progress with incremental changes and also then look for radical changes for some of our infrastructure problems. So I look forward to October and hope that you'll vote for me. Thanks.
Okay, Roger.
Well, why should you vote for me as a councillor for Carterton District Council? Well, quite a major reason is that I've been working for local government, man and boy, since the 1970s. As a fresh-faced urban planner, trainee urban planner in Britain, I worked for Birmingham City Council. Now, that's got a population of 1 million. Their employees were 10,000. That's the entire population of Carterton. So I've seen big councils, and I've also come to New Zealand. I worked for Hamilton, which is quite a big place. And as a consultant, I've done various consulting work to one of the smallest councils I've done work for is Carterton. So I've seen big councils, small councils, work inside the system, work from outside as a consultant. And we're going to face some very big challenges in the next few years because we've got the Three Waters reform. That's going to prompt a whole lot of questions, whether it goes through or not. The future of local government, what is the future? If you're going to get someone to steer a ship through this sort of thing, you need someone like me who's been through it all their career. Now, Sam asked which project would I favour achieving something in. I would say the waste plant. It's mismanaged, but problems are coming out now. There has been a change of staff and a change of management. So I think the management are on top of it. I'd like to see that delivered and delivered well with all the problems. The next one, the other problem one, of course, is the clock tower strengthening. And yeah, so if you want someone who's been there all his career in local government, then vote for me.
Okay, Joe.
Thank you, Ben. So I bring a fresh perspective. I moved to Masterton at the end of 2020 to work with the local iwi rangitane Tumaira Trust as the General Manager. I presented to the Masterton District Council at their long-term plan, and what did I find when I walked through the door? I found a council that has no diversity on it whatsoever. They were all older white male, really. And I felt that it needed to have some more diversity, people with fresh perspectives. I felt that this is what was missing with the Masterton District Council. And I started thinking back then, I think I might like to throw my hat in the ring when the mayoralty comes up, knowing that Lynn was going to be leaving. So I set my sights on that and kind of forgot about it until this year. When the nominations opened, and I was asked again, would I throw my hat in the ring? Because I have so much to bring into council. The relationships that I forged in my parliamentary life, the relationships that I forged with iwi, and that is a perspective that I bring that the council needs to work on. We have 2 iwi, who, of which Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa Tamaki Nui Arua will finalise their settlement by the end of next year, I would say, if not sooner. They are multi-million-dollar treaty settlements in cash, and they bring multi-million-dollar assets with them. We need to keep those assets in our region, in our Masterton region, in our Wairarapa region. I bring that relationship into council with me as a mayor. I don't want to be a councillor, I want to be the mayor, because the mayor opens doors where I can get in and talk to the colleagues that I had at Parliament, to our iwi whānau, and to be able to work with them to grow the diversity and grow Masterton District. I love Masterton. I wasn't born there, I was born in Ikarahuna, close enough I reckon. My mother, Whakapapuia, she was born and raised in Masterton, so I have been in and out of Masterton visiting it from a child. I love it, my husband loves it. He says to me, once we can find ourselves a farm, real estate agents, so hopefully you're listening, that we can purchase, we want to move there and spend the rest of our days in Masterton. I'm committed, and that's what I bring. Vote Joe Hayes for Mayor of Masterton. Kia ora.
Okay, Mary.
Well, I'm running for the Featherston Community Board, and I've spent most of my life as a computer programmer, so I think that I can bring a lot of attention to detail and the willingness to really knuckle down and look at issues properly. I also like to listen to both sides of an issue. One of the things that I think is really important for Featherston, obviously, is the sewerage issue, because that is a major, because it has completely polluted Lake Wairarapa. So we have to fix that. With Three Waters, I don't know what that would mean. That maybe we wouldn't have any say over what would happen. But as something a little bit different than what's been talked about so far tonight, a project that I would like to bring to the Featherston community and the South Wairarapa District Council is to get rid of Roundup, and we start using something more natural. Obviously, we have to look into the cost, but you know, I have looked a lot into the damage that Roundup does to the ground and to the waterways, and we need to get more modern. You know, this should be putting these sort of chemicals all over the land should be something of the last century. We shouldn't be doing it today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates, for closing statements. I'd like to thank Jill and Diane for making this event possible. It's not easy to get over the hill and leave the 04 telephone calling area, but I have to admit it is a pleasure coming over here. I love coming to Wairarapa because it is a very different lifestyle, and it reminds me of the days when I lived in London before I moved to Wellington. So thank you so much for doing this, and thank you, candidates, for coming there for this show. It is the only one that we'll be having for candidates across multiple councils, because once we kick in for next week, we will be going from, they'll be down to individualised wards. Our first It's in the Ballot show for the kicking off of the election season is the Onipoto Water Progressive Council, where 15 people have put up their hand to become the next councillor for 5 seats. And just for the Wairarapa voters out there, remember to get your ticks out when it comes to voting, not your 1s, 2s and 3s. So, you it's a little bit of a reminder, considering I'm in the other boat of being the EastTV back in Newtown. Can I also sit there and thank both, well, not both, I should say, Stacey Ryan, Rachel, and Andre DeGroot for coming over in person to help make this go ahead, and for Eddie Martin, who is coming live from Auckland, who has put the name titles across the screen and put in the banners, and Eddie for also who went through all, basically put all the name graphics and getting everything lined up for the show. As I say, about every show probably has about 10 to 20 hours worth of work put into it in advance. It is not a simple affair. So doing it. Now, for those with the Wellington shows, if we want your questions in the question boxes, you can ring our toll-free number 0508 Ballot, select the line of which council you want to place it in, and you can leave us a message, or you can go to our website and you can go submit a question on the form, depending which one you want is better. Some people like the old-fashioned telephone, some people like the computer technology version, so we have both options available for those who want it. Can I say thank you to our audience who have also come here. I don't think I know any of you, but I'm pretty sure all these candidates probably do. And something I do actually have from Wellington, and I met him at the last general election. So Taylor Arnell has been sending me messages throughout the show. Now, Rob Mark knows Taylor very well, and he did sit there and say he is very impressed with your actions tonight, and he also said he was impressed with me. So, you know, these are things that they do trickle through to me, maybe not quite in the public post. And actually, I think he has just done this. So this is the thing that when all of us had this remote editing thing there on my desk there. I think Taylor was the one who actually put that on there. I'm not sure if it is Free Nations as him, but I do think that is him. He's watching that on YouTube. I do know most of our viewers are watching on Facebook, but that's all right. You know, we have multiple channels because people have their own different methods they like to watch on things. So thank you for watching. We'll see all those viewers back again next Tuesday, Monday, 7 p.m. on the 22nd. And if you want to come to Wairarapa East School to join us in person, feel free to pop down. We look forward to seeing you there. Let's have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks to you guys. And we have got to have a bit of networking. We've got to check on before everybody knows, I want to introduce Martin Matuta. Now, Martin is Martin. Very
You're already elected. That's the way to do it, guys.